My name is Daniel, and yesterday I buried my wife, Sarah. 48 years together. And yet, when I returned to our home that evening, it felt like I was walking into a stranger's house. Her teacup was still on the counter. Her sweater still hung near the door. Her scent of lavender still clung to the air, refusing to let go. Everything felt familiar and painfully empty at the same time. I thought the worst part of my life was over. I thought burying her was a final blow. I was wrong. The next morning, as I stood in the hallway staring at her still folded glasses on the table, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally, I never answer those. But something deep in my chest tugged at me, like Sarah herself was trying to guide my hand. I answered, "Mr. Daniel, this is Ethan," a voice I vaguely recognized. "My name is Ethan Miller. I was Sarah's supervisor. Please, can you come to the office? There's something you need to see." The day after her funeral, what could possibly be so urgent? I told my children, Mark, Elisa, and Tom, that I needed to go somewhere. Not one of them asked why. Not one of them asked if I wanted company. They were too busy handling things. Whatever that meant. That's when I realized my grief was mine alone. The world outside looked painfully bright as I began driving. Families carrying shopping bags, children laughing, stores decorated with lights. Life moved on, even though mine had stopped. By the time I reached the office, my hands were trembling. Ethan met me in the lobby. His face looked drained, almost haunted. "Mr. Daniel, please come with me," he said quietly. He led me to a small conference room and locked the door behind us. Then he handed me a thick brown envelope. "This," he whispered, "this is from Sarah. She left instructions. She told me to give it to you only if something happened to her." My heart stopped. I opened it slowly. Inside were printed emails, photographs, documents, and on top of them all, a handwritten note from Sarah. "Daniel, if you're reading this, I couldn't protect you anymore." My breath cracked. Ethan swallowed hard. "She was gathering evidence," he said. "She didn't want to involve the police until she had everything. She didn't want to stress you. She was worried about your heart." I stared at the documents in my lap. Sarah had uncovered fraud inside the company. Massive fraud. A co-worker had been stealing money for years, and Sarah found out by accident. When she confronted him, he threatened her. There were emails showing his anger, late-night messages, warnings, fear, and then Ethan whispered something that made my blood freeze. "She came to me the day before she collapsed. She said a black SUV had been following her. She was scared, Mr. Daniel." I felt as if the room had fallen away. He pulled out a USB drive. On it was security footage. Footage of Sarah leaving work, and a dark SUV slowly pulling out behind her. That same SUV was seen near the hospital the night she arrived unconscious. "Why didn't you go to police earlier?" I asked. Ethan's voice cracked. "She begged me not to. She said she needed more evidence, and she didn't want to worry you. My wife, my Sarah, she faced danger alone. To protect me." The drive home was silent, heavy, unbearable. When I walked into the house, Mark was watching TV. Elisa was scrolling on her phone. Tom was arguing on his. I told them there was something suspicious about their mother's death. Mark shrugged. "Dad, please don't start imagining things." Elisa said, "Mom was stressed. Leave it." Tom said, "Let it go, Dad. What's done is done." They had no idea what she had endured. Worse, I learned later that Sarah had tried to tell them pieces of the truth. They thought she was overreacting. They told her not to worry me. They let her carry the weight alone. That night, I sat at the table, our table, and stared at the documents again. My hand shook, but not from fear this time, from resolve. I was 70, but not helpless. Not anymore. The next day, I hired a private investigator. He combed through the files, the footage, the emails. 3 days later, he looked me in the eye and said, "Daniel, your wife didn't die from stress. She died because someone wanted her silence." My heart caved in. He traced the SUV, tracked the men she had argued with, followed the money trail. Soon, The pieces lined up neatly, too neatly. The fraud was real. The threats were real. The men were real. And Sarah, my Sarah, had been fighting a silent war to protect me. The investigator took everything to the police. The case was reopened. Newspapers began asking questions. Names started leaking. People in town began whispering. They called Sarah brave, a hero, a woman who stood up against corruption. And then they began whispering about my children. They knew something wasn't right. Why didn't they help their mother? They didn't stand by her. Suddenly, the sympathy they expected from the community turned into cold stares. Friends avoided them. Neighbors crossed the street to avoid conversation. Their reputations collapsed, not because of me, but because of their own neglect. Meanwhile, I walked through the same streets with my head high. I had fought for my wife. I had exposed the truth. I had honored her battle. One evening, after everything calmed down, I sat on the porch with Sarah's letter in my hands. Her words blurred through my tears. If you're reading this, I couldn't protect you anymore. I whispered into the quiet night. But I protected you, Sarah. I finished what you started. I made sure they knew who you really were. The truth behind my wife's death came too late to save her, but not too late to honor her, not too late to fight for her, not too late to show the world she was stronger than anyone ever knew. As long as I live, I will carry her story forward. She wasn't a victim. She was a warrior, my warrior,